Today I have a very, very important message, and that is, even if you feel like you're the ugliest person in the world, that nobody would like you, and that you're just wasting space, I want to let you know a very important message, and that is, not everyone will feel the same. And that is like proof that I have proof right here, because I'll share some of my story as well, why I feel that way, and feel very strongly about this. So it's unfortunate that a lot of people hate themselves. It's true. Like, I've been there myself. I know how it feels to have this burning hatred for yourself, that you just feel like the world would be a better place if you weren't there, right? Sometimes you just don't see why people could like you or think that you're worthy or anything like that. My story goes back to when I was a kid. I had an abusive biological father, had to live with him for like 2.5 years, kind of turned into him in some ways during that time. And without even knowing, like, as a kid, I stole, I did all these horrible things that I didn't even understand why. But how my self-hatred came from when I moved away from him, because when I was living with him, he was, yes, abusive, but you'll find that when you're in an abusive situation, you are so focused on like anyone who do seem to care about you. You just kind of focus on that, right? Rather than like I feel like I've never internalized the abuse as much as what I was told afterwards. So a lot of times, like, I just remember doing these really bad things, like just being very impatient and just yelling about random stupid things, like I didn't want to have food, so I was yelling about it. It's like, oh, why are you being so annoying for calling me out for dinner or something, like I don't want it or whatever. But anyway, after I moved to my mom's place, which was around like 10 years old, I had picked up so much of his bad habits from just being really verbally, like, just being really angry about things. And the unfortunate thing was, when I was angry, it must have triggered something in my mother, because she saw me in him. And unfortunately, I don't think she realized this, but she said some things like, oh, you look exactly like him when you, like, whatever, like, you're selfish just like him, and things like that. Unfortunately, when you're in a situation like hers, it was hard for her to realize that what she said would affect me anyway. So I don't at all would blame her or anything, but I'm just going to share with you my thoughts afterwards, because this is the real consequence that happened. Just so people know, I'm not saying this as like oh, I'm so angry or whatever, but it's basically what I went through the next 10-20 years. So when I was compared to him, because I hated the way he looks anyway, because when you have an abusive person in your life, you're going to hate the way they look, because your brain is going to try to protect you. It's going to say like, ooh, like anyone that looks like him will seem so ugly to you, because your brain is trying to protect you, right? It's very, very, if you think about it logically, it makes so much sense. You're not going to like someone who looks like this abusive person, because if you did and you liked them when they're abusive, you're likely not to be around, because that's just how we protect ourselves. So in my mind, I already hated the way he looked. And when she said things like that, which she was saying like, oh, you look like a wolf that's about to devour someone when you're angry like him. Like, I understand, like, there must have been, like, I understand, because he had this specific look when he was angry. Like, when he was angry, he just looked so, like he was about to, his face was about to burst or something. And because I had similar features to him, so it wouldn't be a surprise if when I got angry, I also would look similar to how he looked. But unfortunately, because of that combination of hating the way he looked and also being compared, I've developed this serious hatred for myself for about 15 years of my life, especially around the early teenage years to about my late 20s. Those were the years that were so hard. Nowadays, because I have a lot of self-awareness, it has got much better. But during those years, I felt so strongly of hatred to myself that Like, all I could think about is, if I met someone, all I can think about is, you won't last long because you're going to know things about me, and then you're going to want to like ditch because you won't like me when you knew. Or like, oh, just wait till you see me angry. Like, seriously. The worst thing is I still can't control this freaking anger, and I still feel horrible when I get angry. I hate that, because all my childhood I've been made to feel that if I get angry then I'm bad. Unfortunately, I just wish that I had gotten more tools of how to deal with that, because anger is an emotion that everyone feels, especially if they are threatened or things like that. They go into high like anxiety. Yes, anger is a really, really common emotion, and everyone has it, but not everyone knows how to deal with that. And unfortunately, some people just have a lot more anger than others. And I've recently just discovered just how much out of control I feel, because I've been on antidepressants for about 8 years. Since Lucas was 1 year old, I decided to go on it because I was dealing with severe anxiety, depression, and all that kind of stuff that I was just having such a hard time dealing with. I was just like completely just felt like I couldn't even see the light of day, and it was just so difficult. And it had nothing to do with Lucas. It was to do with the changing hormones. It was due to the lack of sleep. It was to do with all the things that I was afraid of, and I felt like I was going to die from not being able to sleep because I was so stressed. So I started taking the medication, and ever since then, during the 8 years, I found that my mood significantly improved in every single way, and the fact that anger is evolved, which means things don't bother me as much. I still get angry, but it was more like very mellowed out. I was like from this like needing a punching bag for everything, like, to just being okay with a lot of things that didn't work out. And guess what? In the last month, I had to quit because we're trying for something, like, it's like, I have other videos talking about why I quit, but anyway. Oh my god, this anger has come out with a full force, and it's actually really reminding me of why I used to hate myself so much. It was just so horrible. Like, I just blow up out of rage over nothing. It's actually freaking me out. Like, I hate that, but at the same time, I feel like I have so little control over it. I just want to know how I can get rid of that angry energy. And it's like, sometimes I just feel like maybe I do need a punching bag. Maybe I do need one of those like squeezing things, because sometimes I just need to really squeeze my energy out of it. But the story here is that sometimes we need to like anger is not something that we can just turn off. I wish I could. Honestly, if I could, I would say, for my own personality, I would say, never get angry at all. Never get angry about anything. Never get annoyed. Just be happy with everything. I would check that if I could, but the thing is, I can't. And unfortunately, as a child, when you're told something like, oh, you're just a selfish little person, just like your abusive biological father, that kind of does bad to your own self-esteem. Unfortunately, I grew up for like 10 years absolutely hating the way I looked, the way I sounded, and pretty much everything to do with me. There was a reason why I could never fit in with any groups, friendship groups or things like that. I felt like I couldn't join them because I just feel like people wouldn't want to listen to me, because people would just think that I'm this like horrible, like disgusting monster, that they wouldn't want to talk to me at all. That's what I believed that they would think, but I was wrong, because I didn't even know myself the way I do now, which is really interesting, because ever since I filmed videos and I had to listen to them and I had to edit them, I've discovered that I don't sound so bad, and I don't look so bad a lot of times. Sometimes I'll look really bad, but other times I'm like, okay, I look fine. Like, today I have a good day. I actually don't look that bad. But other days when I'm in a specific angle or whatever, like, oh my god, I just hate the way I look. So that's okay. I've accepted all of them. So it's really important, because when you have a self-hatred, like this burning self-hatred, it comes from inside, and it's hard to get out of it. It's hard to stop yourself from feeling that, because you don't even realize when you're thinking that. You don't even realize when you're going into those spiral thoughts of self-hatred. You have to like realize it right away, and you have to like kind of jump out of your own body to almost see it from a different perspective. That's like the only way I can do things to actually try to get me to think differently, because I have to remember that not everyone feels the same, and people who haven't seen his abusiveness are not going to find his particular features ugly like I do. So, you'll find that a lot of times everyone has different ideas of what beauty is, what ugly is. And beauty and ugliness and whatever is not all that matters, believe me. A lot of things have to do with just getting to know you, like hearing what you have to say, how you make them feel. All of that is just as important, or if more important, because I keep thinking back to, there's a few people in my life that I owe everything to. I just feel really grateful for. A couple of people are my high school teachers, because my high school teachers at the time were some of the only people who encouraged me in a way that I never really got encouraged in my teenage years, because growing up in an Asian household, you know how Asian parents can be. They are very focused on academics, and they don't really tell you like, oh, like you're doing well. They kind of like to push you in the negative reinforcement is how they like to do things, and they'll almost always say like what you're not doing well, or what you could be improving on. So instead of being told you're doing well, or you're a good person, or you're wonderful and I care about you, it's usually stuff like, oh, why aren't you doing this well? Or you still, what happened to the test result? Or like, don't do like art because you're not going to find a job there. Just, you're wasting your time. Things like that will be told to you a lot more if you're from an Asian household. Although I know a lot of people who weren't also might experience that. It doesn't really, I don't know, but that's just been my experience. And a lot of people I know also have similar experiences, that they weren't even allowed to do creative things when they were young because it was seen as a waste of time. But in reality, when you think about it, I don't even blame those parents, because they really are just scared themselves. They don't want you to starve to death. They care about your life. They don't want you to die of starvation on the streets. So, it's kind of just like you have to kind of like have that understanding to be okay with it. But anyway, as I said, during high school, I had a couple of teachers, maybe 3 or 4. I think there was at least 4 teachers who were like very encouraging to me. I just remember they'd always see me with like this bright, happy, cheerful expression. They would always talk about how talented I was whenever I did things like, because at school I would always do creative stuff. Like I would make websites, I would always write. I wrote a lot, and I wrote a lot of expressive things like poetry, lyrics, and things. I used to always do that. I wrote a lot, and I don't know if I drew, but I did all this creative stuff. And I have this memory of my teachers just telling me that I was talented. And that was something I never heard before. And they were also very kind, and they were like, they just seemed to encourage me in a way that I've never experienced before. And guess what? When I think back to all the people that I care about, and all the people that I would want to just do everything to thank them, it's those people who come to mind. Not people who look bad, not people who look good, not people who were ugly, not people who were beautiful. None of that matters. It's all like my teachers to me are everything, because they gave me that love that I just so desperately like needed at the time. They gave me this encouragement. They were everything to me. I really just, they matter so much to me. And that's what I want to remember. Those teachers, like, I don't know, like they were like, some of them were in their 40s, 50s. It's not about how they look. It's not about how they sound. It's about how they made me feel. And those people were so important to me. They were like my family. They were like someone I would like do anything for, because they helped me first. They were so kind to me. So that's the thing I really want to share, is that sometimes it's not about whether you look good or not. It's just, if you have a relatable story and you can just help others feel similar, like to relate to you, like who's to say, like, I'm absolutely certain that there'll be people who really connect to you, relate to you, and will care about you. I truly do believe that. And I don't at all for a second believe that nobody in the world will care about you, because I do believe someone will, because they may not know you yet. Not the right person have known you yet. That's the thing. Because if I come across someone who really it's like, especially if they were in a similar situation as I was, I feel like I can relate to them. I truly do care about what they're going through. I want them to have the best life. I do really care. If I don't even know you, just sharing your story, or if we're connecting and I hear your story, I feel like I do care about those people. Like, I really do. So I truly, like, sometimes I kind of wish I could clone myself into, like, all parts of the world and just make friends with everybody who just, you know, I have my crazy thoughts, you know. But my point is, like, you might think you're absolutely horrible and you don't deserve anything and nobody will like you, but you can't say that for other people. And that's my most important message, is that please allow other people to like you or to think good things about you. Like, please allow them, and not tell them that they're just not thinking straight, or that you know, there are things that I used to think. So I'm just speaking from my own experience. I'm not even speaking for anyone else but my own experience. I used to, like, because when I was young, I was told by people that I was good looking, I was beautiful, whatever, and I thought they were, like, crazy and maybe not functioning very well. Like, I just didn't believe it, and I thought they were crazy. But coming back to think about it, you know, why wouldn't they have been saying the truth? I bet some people do think that. Like, I don't at all think they were lying. And it's just, your mind is just trying to trick you sometimes. Like, if you have this certain belief about yourself, especially if it's negative, it's going to be hard for people to change your mind. You have to change it yourself. You have to be aware of it to actually change it. You have to be aware that this bias is here, that you have to almost step out of your body to be able to change it, because sometimes you just will treat yourself worse than other people. And I try to, like, I guess that's why sometimes filming does work for me, because I get to see myself from almost a different perspective, because I'm kind of watching myself like I would another person. And you just don't realize that, because when you're seeing yourself in the mirror or something and you just hear yourself, you kind of just don't know yourself the way you would for anyone else. Because when you're looking out, you don't see yourself. That's what I always say. You don't ever see yourself. But just know that everyone will think differently. And I have a proof right here that I sometimes will think someone looks really good, and then they say, "You don't know what you're talking about. You're just lying," or "You're being too nice." That's the one thing. You're being too nice. And my thought is, like, that is really how I feel, though. I really do feel that way. I do think you look great. I'm not being too nice. I'm not saying this because I'm too nice. I really do believe that. So please don't tell me how I feel. So that's very important. I know it's easy to just think that everyone's got this conspiracy to be too nice or something, but you have to also think about it. If you believe in the world that not people, like, do you also believe that people are too nice everywhere? Like, if you're the type to believe that there are nasty people in the world, then why would everyone be too nice? You know what I mean? Like, you have to really kind of logically defy your own thoughts in some ways to kind of make yourself see the flaws of your own thinking sometimes. Like, I know it's tough to be told that you're flawed in thinking, but I know I would not be happy if I was told that when I was a kid. But it is like your own thing. You have to find it yourself. You have to find that ability. Like, the one thing I don't want to happen to anyone is that their self-hatred makes them think that nobody will want to talk to them, nobody will like them, that they have nothing to share, they are not valuable. That's not true. Like, no matter how horrible your experience has been, you can always share things that will connect with someone. I do believe that. It's just like how it, like, I remember years ago, I was debating whether I should make videos because I hated the idea of my own face on the internet. Like, you know, as someone who hated the way I looked for so many years, why would I want to see my own face on the internet, right? Like, I was cringed enough to even look at my photos that other people took once in a while, but then you realize that you take better photos than other people sometimes. I don't know why, but anyway. It was a very challenging thing for me to decide, okay, I'm gonna just allow my own videos to be on the internet and let people watch me. That was very hard, and I ended up doing that because I so desperately want to share part of my story that I know could relate to someone. And you know what? Like, I've gotten messages from people who said that I've written their exact experience, and that's kind of almost crazy that that happened. Like, I'm describing their exact moment in life to the T, and that I couldn't believe that. Like, and I remember how much I wanted to relate to someone when I was young, especially with my anxiety and nausea that came from anxiety, because I had a lot of bad anxiety when I was a kid. I was so nauseous that I couldn't go out, couldn't go to school, I couldn't do things, I couldn't have speeches at school, I couldn't even go to the cinema without feeling so sick to my stomach, and I felt like I couldn't eat. As soon as someone said dinner was ready, that would spiral me into a panic, and I would feel like I'm gonna die because I had to eat. And I wasn't even like anorexic in that way, because I wanted to eat and I didn't want to like lose weight or anything, but I just couldn't eat stomach food because I was so anxious and nauseous and stuff. And for a long time I thought I was the only crazy person in the world who felt like that, and I was just this crazy person. Like, I didn't even realize that other people felt the same until later on I did realize that, oh, I think someone, because I saw it in a magazine, I saw someone say in the magazine that they experienced shaking hands, they experienced nausea, queasiness when they were anxious, and that was the first time in my life I realized that someone else could feel the same way as I did. And I just held on to that little bit of hope that maybe I wasn't so crazy after all. And because of that, I wanted to share my story, because I feel like, oh, maybe someone else will feel the same. And I've gotten tons of messages on that particular video about people who said they almost experienced the same thing and that they feel less alone. And imagine if I just thought, oh, I'm just a piece of crap who is not worthy to share anything, I didn't post that, then those people wouldn't, like, you know, maybe I was able to help because I was able to find things that worked for me, like ginger, that really worked on my stomach, and that still works to this day. And that's why I was able to get better eventually. So I was able to share that knowledge. I just feel like so much could have been wasted if I just went down the path of, oh, I just hate myself, so I don't want to see the way horrible I look. And yes, of course there is going to be people who think you're ugly. That's okay. That's okay. Just like there's going to be people who think that you're not ugly. There's going to be people who think you're the most beautiful person in the world, and there will be others who want to see you get fatter, and there'll be people who want to see you get skinnier. So it doesn't really matter. Everyone's different. You're not going to be you're not going to, like, how do I explain this? It just doesn't matter. Like, you don't need to please everybody. Just share your story and let the connections, like, build the connection. That's the most important thing. And that's very important to me, because I should have, like, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I should have been able to make my video and share my stories and everything, but I didn't allow myself to because I felt like I was too ugly. And now I'm just like, I know there are other people in that same situation. Maybe you don't want to make videos, but maybe you want to do other things. Maybe you want to, like, talk more with people. Maybe you want to be able to do something you always ran away from because you felt like you weren't good looking enough. And I just want to say that it's easy to think that the world judge you by your looks, but in reality, the looks is like, I don't even think it matters that much. It's really like, allow them to get to know you, because you never know what will happen. But anyway, and if you have that self-hatred for you, like, you just have to really think of it from another person's perspective. You have to kind of jump out of your own skin sometimes. That's just something that works. And remember, the things that you were told in childhood by people around you, maybe people you care about, may not necessarily be true. Like, just because they said something, it doesn't mean it's true. You just have to kind of think, if I was in that situation, would I say that same thing? Would I have said that? Would I mean that? If I said that, would I have meant that, is the question. So, you know, these are all things that I've come across that helped me over the years, and I feel like that might do something for you. So just remember, my teachers, when I think about the people that I care about, it's my teachers a lot. Like, a lot of I have a lot of respect, and so much respect for my teachers from high school, because they were so kind to me, and it's all because they showed me kind of encouragement. And that should be enough to prove that looks don't matter in the end. looks don't matter. It's like, it doesn't really matter in the end. So anyway, hopefully you have a really wonderful day. Take care of yourself, and just remember, even if you feel like nobody in the world cares, just remember that I do. If just, you know, I do in a strange kind of way, because I obviously don't know these people, but if I do, I would, is what I meant to say. So anyway, take care of yourself, please.